On the eve of the presidential election, Zimbabwe is a deeply divided nation. In Bendura in central Zimbabwe, the funeral of a 24-year-old political activist. Trimor Mdisi was a youth leader of the Movement for Democratic Change, the MDC. He was murdered while campaigning for the party. Nobody has been arrested for his murder, but his family believes it was Zanu PF supporters. His father was once a powerful and senior official in the ruling Zanu PF.
Chairman. Ndichisenza pagoche ndakabuda basa pagoche nemhosva yemwana wangu ya tribe vaiuya vachindinetsa masiya iwo ndikaziona kuti nazvitaita regai ndibve ndiende kune vamwe ndobva ndauya pano pandigere pano musha wangu wandakazvitengera nemari yandakasenza ndiri mupurisa kuhurumende. Saka ndaifunga kuti Zanu ihurumende yakanaka. Saka zuva ranhasi vanhu vese ndiri kukutaurirani mwoyo wangu wakatsamwa. Kada Zanu ndaida handichatomboida. Ndoda kuti kana ini ndife futi wakaedza mwoyo wangu wese. Ndiri chizvarwa chemuZimbabwe kumusha kwangu ndichibva kuchiweshe iko kunobva Joseph Msika ende ndiri muzukuru wake zvakare. Saka zuva ranhasi ndarwadziwa nekuparira kwamwana wangu. Mwana wangu akanga akura achida iye bato raanoda. Saka Zanu munombindura kana nyika yese yakaona iye kuti mwana yaane njere yekutaura nokuti iye akazviona ndiri kudzvinyirirwa nehurumende iripo, hurumende yeumhondi yaponda vanhu vakawanda. Saka nyika ino ropa richaerera nokuti iye Zanu ndiyo yatanga kuyeredza ropa munyika muno.
Political analysts and observers describe the Zimbabwean presidential election as a battle between old and new, between traditionalism and modernism. Zanu PF and President Robert Mugabe fight the election on a ticket of anti-colonialism, the return of the land to the people, and more jobs and houses. The MDC and its leader Mugabe and Tsvangirai want to see the economy restructured, fair land redistribution, and national reconciliation. Nobody embodies the spirit and character of Zanu PF more than this man, Didymus Mutasa, Secretary for External Affairs, a senior Politburo member, Member of Parliament and a Mugabe confidant. This is Makoni North, Zanu PF heartland.
When the Europeans came here into Rhodesia, they gave us the Bible and they took away our land. We want to go away from that situation. We simply want to get our land back, and if it is necessary, give them their Bible back.
For Didymus Mutasa, history is all important in this election. Blood was spilled to bring about freedom. He took us to a former Rhodesian army base where guerrillas were allegedly tortured and buried in a mass grave.
So they brought them here and killed them at this structure. You can see that trench, which is dug right down there. They were really instruments for murder. You can't even call it killing. I do not think that the majority of our people want to live under an MDC government, because as other people have said before, being ruled by the MDC is being ruled by Ian Smith, and nobody in this country wants to go back to Rhodesia.
The election issue is about the future of the country. What are those issues that the Zimbabweans feel are the most important, tangible issues that they will need addressed?
Anyone who knows the history of this country would not behave as the MDC is behaving at the present moment, because they are surely and truly being used by the former Smith regime.
Any politician who talks about the past does not understand that the real basis of winning an election is talking about the program for the future. Apparently, Mugabe is too engrossed in his past.
For 15 years, Zimbabweans fought a bloody guerrilla war before forcing the regime of Ian Smith to the negotiating table and into a free and fair election. Guerrilla leader Robert Mugabe emerged victorious.
Long live our freedom. The final countdown before the launching of the new state of Zimbabwe has now begun. Only a few hours from now, Zimbabwe will have become a free, independent, and sovereign state, free to choose its own flight path and chart its own course to its chosen destiny. Its people have made a democratic choice of those who, as their legitimate government, they wish to see govern them and take policy decisions as to their future. This, indeed, is the meaning of the mandate my party secured through a free and fair election conducted in the full glare of the world's spotlight.
In the West, Mugabe was widely viewed as a Marxist, but he soon showed himself to be a pragmatist. He pleaded for national unity and embarked on a campaign to educate his people and provide health care for all. Zimbabwe became a model for the rest of Africa.
Democracy is never mob rule. It is and should remain disciplined rule, requiring compliance with the law and social rules. Our independence must thus not be construed as an instrument vesting individuals or groups of individuals with the right to harass and intimidate others.
No one knows Mugabe better than this man, Edgar Tekere, former guerrilla leader, founding member of Zanu PF, and a minister in Mugabe's first cabinet. He became known as a party maverick.
It's correct to be fearful what Mugabe might do. Mugabe is a very determined man. That's one thing about him. I describe him as a perseverer. Inflexible. Once he has made up his mind to go this way, he is going to go that way.
But Tekere was also one of the first to break ranks and stand up to Mugabe. In 1989, he resigned from the party, claiming corruption. In 1990, he became the first man to take on Mugabe in a presidential election, an election he says was rigged.
The rigging of elections and playing the fool with ballots and ballot boxes and so forth, like they did in 1990, it is not going to be exactly that easy this time around.
The most serious challenge to Mugabe's power came 3 years ago with the formation of the MDC. Its leader was Mugabe and Tsvangirai, a trade unionist virtually unknown to the outside world. In early 2000, Mugabe lost a referendum on a draft constitution. This would have permitted him 2 additional terms in office, granted government officials immunity from prosecution, and sanctioned government seizure of white-owned land. In parliamentary elections a few months later, the MDC, against all odds, captured 57 of the 120 seats in parliament.
The MDC perpetrators of political violence and crimes against humanity and their international sponsors should also know that their days are numbered.
3 weeks after the draft constitution was rejected, so-called war veterans started invading white-owned farms. Mugabe's opponents saw this as nothing less than a ploy to win votes. Zanu PF said it was simply reclaiming land that was illegally occupied by whites. Land remains one of Zanu PF's main election issues.
I talked to many white farmers here about the land redistribution exercise. And you say, but sure, it is right for you even to volunteer, to offer to have this land redistributed, because you are not living in 1890.
I think as a matter of justice, everybody has to accept Zimbabwe shall never ever be a colony again, and the land belongs to the people of Zimbabwe, and we will acquire it.
It is not racism, because if it is seen as racism here, it is worse in Europe.
We consider it to be our third Chimurenga, which is the third revolution to complete the triad of the revolutions that we have gone through, because it's economic empowerment.
Many of us did not go to fight the second Chimurenga in order to install a British puppet like Tsvangirai. That under those circumstances, if there were to be a coup, we would support it.
Independent polls put Mugabe and Tsvangirai ahead in the presidential race, but many see him as politically inexperienced, even naive, especially after he was apparently conned into an alleged plot to assassinate Mugabe. A new vision is driving his campaign.
Our vision is to return this country in a new direction, not the suicidal path that Mugabe set us on. What are the elements of that plan? First and foremost is to restore law and order to the country. That is the only way we can establish confidence amongst the Zimbabweans.
The MDC has really de-campaigned themselves. And that on one occasion I was joking with our campaigners that we must find funding for Tsvangirai because he's doing a very good job for Zanu PF.
Secondly, we have got a transitional plan which looks at a number of areas that would need immediate response for starvation, for food shortages, for violence, for an immediate reorganization of the land reform program.
I have given a new name to the MDC. I do not really call them a movement for democratic change. I call them mentally deficient children. They haven't got any minds at all.
The reason why we are participating in this election is not because we are endorsing a flawed process. We are participating in this election because we don't want to abandon the will of the people. Come on. And we are the only ones who are saying what we are going to do on people who are going to starve on the first day we are elected. We have an effective program on job creation. We've got an effective program of intervening in those marginalized areas, 80%, who are actually affected by poverty.
We are, yes, confident. I think it is only a miracle that would happen for any other party to win.
Robert Mugabe sells himself as the man who liberated his country from the chains of racist rule, the leader who brought his people education, health, relative prosperity, and now land. In his election manifesto, he promises to build 1 million houses to stop rising inflation and food prices. However, most of his electioneering has focused on anti-colonialism and his opponent's alleged links with Britain.
We must defend the people and defend ourselves and defend the party. Imondi, from Tsvangirai down to the Tsotsis, Zawanaita deploy. They are all a bunch of murderous characters.
He is showing the murderer that he is. He is showing the terrorist that he is. He is showing the lack of intelligence that he is.
The election campaign has been marked by violence. Both sides accuse one another of intimidation and blame unruly supporters. This Zanu PF member says he was attacked by MDC supporters at a Mugabe rally. And these people claim they were beaten up by Mugabe supporters at an MDC gathering.
I was attacked when I went on a campaign trail in Bindura. I was attacked when I went on a campaign trail in Sanyat. All these lead to one thing, that these guys are desperate.
When Adam was asked about the original sin, he said to God, if you had not sent Eve to be with me, I would not have sinned. So probably the same might be said. If there were no MDC, there would be no violence in Zimbabwe.
I form that opinion because there is a whole series of very serious attempts at my life. I was almost thrown on 10th floor building after being attacked by unknown assailants. I know now that there were a group of war veterans sent by Mugabe.
Our party has in fact been on the receiving end of violence. And unfortunately, our press has not been able to report on that. The bits and pieces which they reported was of Zanu PF campaigners being beaten up and having stones thrown on their heads and having wounds actually all over their bodies. I have not seen a similar picture of MDC campaigners in this area, because in fact they are not here in Makoni area.
Both parties claim there are several no-go areas in the country where they can't campaign. One such area is Didymus Mutasa's Zanu PF constituency in Makoni North.
The MDC people come at night. They distribute their literature here, simply leave it dumped on the roads, on the streets, and our people go and collect it and burn it because it is really dirt.
We believe we have made significant inroads in the rural areas. Mashonaland Central, Mashonaland West, Mashonaland East, I think Mugabe will have a root show.
There is really no one, even if we wanted to be violent, there is no one to meet that violence on, because there is hardly any MDC person who is here, who is resident here, to be violent to.
There is growing evidence that the police and Central Intelligence Organization are taking sides in the battle for votes. When night falls, this more sinister form of political violence seems to take place. Tundurai Ndira is a founding member of the MDC. He shares his house with friends, all targets of alleged police action because of Ndira's presence in the house.
Not safe, if I'm wrong. There's other time in which they were in need to arrest me. They couldn't find me. They check everybody here. All of the guys who say are MDC members. So they took everybody and detained them at Central Police Station during my absence. Then they charged with public violence.
On a recent raid, the police smashed the family's wardrobe and broke their radio. They were searching for illegal weapons that Ndira says he never had.
Last kicks of a dying horse are very dangerous. That's why you see they're always killing people, intimidating, breaching the rule, everything. They know that they are going to lose this election.
Since the MDC's birth 3 years ago, Ndira claims to have recruited several thousand members. That's why he believes he's been beaten unconscious by the police, arrested 8 times, and has had to fork out thousands of Zimbabwe dollars for bail. No charge against him has ever been proven in court. The ongoing arrests are not the most troubling part of a campaign that he says is aimed at making him quit the MDC. It's the psychological warfare at home that started to spill over into his friends' and family's lives.
We were sitting again at our residence home with my wife. I saw the policemen come. They were saying, you support whites, you want to sell Zimbabwe, so if we beat you, I think your brain will work so that you can follow Zanu PF, not MDC.
For their single room and a small adjacent kitchen, Ndira pays more than 500 rand per month. He blames Zanu PF for the impossibly high cost of living in Zimbabwe and for his unemployment. Friends help them survive. These days, Ndira's family doesn't get to sleep at their home very much. Even tonight, his family has to pack. They're always on the run from the police.
Police and members of the CIO, those are the ones who always are intimidating me each and every time. Even yesterday they came at my home, they just parked their armored car, they didn't talk to anyone. I was hiding somewhere, but I know that if I was around at home, they were going to beat me again.
Ndira has campaign work to take care of this coming week. He knows he can fend for himself, but fears for his family.
My wife is not safe. If she sleep here today, tomorrow she sleep to another relative. The following day she sleep to her friends. So she's not safe until the election has been done.
His family will hide out until election day, but Ndira has to continue the fight against alleged intimidation on behalf of his party members. The very next day, in fact, he has to travel to the MDC's provincial office to fetch an assault victim who's just come out of hospital and take him home. 2 days ago, old man Tsvangirai was home alone when alleged Zanu PF supporters showed up looking for his son.
He said to his father, we are looking for your children, dead or alive. So I want you to teach your son. So we start by beating you. They started to attack him using slashers, knives, stones.
Every day, a group gathers outside the MDC offices, victims of assault and other supporters. They catch up on election news and pass on information.
Myself, my life is in danger, as far as I know. They want me to lose hope for MDC.
For today, Ndira is trying to assure old man Tsvangirai that he and his son will be safe on their way home. But on election day, he knows many who've been intimidated will have to venture out and stare down those they say they fear. An estimated 5 million Zimbabweans are eligible to vote on Saturday and Sunday. Whatever that result, it will change the face of Zimbabwe forever. We asked Didymus Mutase what would happen if Mugabe and Tsvangirai wins.
I think there will be mayhem throughout the whole of this region.
I'm not naive. I'm not given to the fact that we are inheriting a rose picture. I know we are inheriting a mess, but I can tell you that MDC has a vision and a plan.
Nobody would vote for a leader of that caliber. And when you size him with Mugabe, who has led this country for the last 22 years, you then find it a joke. And that's why I was saying, you should have asked whether we are overconfident of winning.